Hi, welcome to the Craft Channel. My name's Corinne Bradd, and today I've got a project for you which is going to become very useful in the cold weather. And it's a draught excluder. And it's dead easy. And to be honest with you, if you've got a drafty door, you could roll a towel up, put it against it. If you'd like something that looked a little bit better, then make yourself a draught excluder. And it's a great stashbuster project because you can make a patchwork cover and then you can stuff it with pretty much whatever you can find. Don't go out and buy a whole load of fibre filling. Also, it's quite weighty. So I've seen various videos where people have put dried lentils or dried rice or weights in the bottom of it. I suppose if you've got a gale blowing under your door, then it might roll away. But this has got a fairly flat bottom to it. So it should just sit snugly against the bottom of your door and stop those drafts coming through. Now, the first thing you want to do is measure the width of your door, because I naively thought that all doors were 3 foot wide. They're not. They're 2.5, or at least the ones in my house are 2.5 foot wide. So what you don't want to do is make a draught excluder that is too wide, because it's okay if you're putting it against the side of the door that is flush with your wall, but if you need to put it against the side of the door that's in the reveal, and you have to tip the ends up, it's going to let that draft through where it's tipped up. So measure your door frame first, and then find yourself something to stuff your draught excluder with. So as I say, you could use a rotten old blanket, some disreputable old bathroom towels, and you want them just a couple of inches shorter than the width of your door. A couple of inches shorter? No, do you know what? Make them the width of your door. Now what I've got here is this insulation wadding, which is called wool cool, and it comes when you get sort of cold food deliveries and things like that. I've got 2 layers of it, and I've got to stuff this into a tube this big. So I've found the easiest way to do this is if you roll it up tight in both directions, and then you grab yourself some yarn, cut yourself a long enough piece of yarn that you can actually grab the ends of it and tie it in a knot to hold that closed. Start at the end here, and again wrap some more yarn around it. It would be really easy if I had a third hand to put my finger on the knot while I'm holding it tight. You could also use elastic bands, which would make life easier. You could also use longer bits of yarn that would make life easier. And the reason I'm using this wool cool is because I'm a bit of a hoarder, and it was one of those things I thought, oh, that'd be really handy for something. I have repadded an ironing board with it. The intention was actually to make a dog bed out of layers of it. I haven't got around to that yet, but the dog doesn't seem to mind. But this is essentially just unrefined sheep's wool. It has actually got bits of straw in it. You can feel the lanolin in it. I'm going to cut myself some more wool because they're way too short. But the beauty is that it's wool, it's insulating, and although it's really quite, I hesitate to use the word grubby, but it's, you know, you wouldn't use it to line a quilt with. It's far too rough for that. But it's going to be hidden in your sausage skin of fabric. So it doesn't really need to be seen. And the reason I'm binding this up at several places across here is because what I don't want to do is I don't want to have a visible seam on the outside of my draught excluder. I want to be able to slip this inside the tube of fabric. But then what I'm going to do is, as I put it inside, is you can very simply just cut the ties so it then spreads out again. So you've got your rolled sausage of wadding, and I'm just going to measure it to check that it is the right size. So this is 31, 32 inches wide, which is fine because the ends will compress a little bit, and it is 10 inches in diameter. So I need to add a couple of inches either end. So I need a piece of fabric that's about 35 inches long, and I need an inch or so around the middle to make sure that I can actually get this sausage in. So let me just put him to one side. I have a piece of pre-prepared fabric that I've made here. This is from leftover fabric from another project. It's a simple patchwork brick design. I've sandwiched a layer of quilt wadding inside here, and I've backed it with plain cotton fabric. I've put the quilt wadding in here just to add another layer of insulation. I would thoroughly recommend that you put a smooth fabric as a backing, because trying to put quilt wadding and wool together is like trying to rub sandpaper together, and it was a bit difficult, the first one I made, to actually get the sausage into its skin. So this piece of fabric is about 38 inches, so that's ample, by 11 inches. So it might be a little bit tight, but we'll give it a go. And also what I have done with this fabric is on the reverse, you will see that I've got more top fabric than I have bottom on both sides. And this is because what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this down and just hem it on the inside, because I don't want all three layers of fabric right at the ends. I'm going to have to run a running stitch through here to gather it up. So let's just sew this down first of all. Just a normal straight stitch with about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm talking in inches all the time now. So hem both ends of your quilted fabric strip. And it really doesn't matter what it looks like on the inside, because you're not going to see the inside. And then fold it right sides together. Stick a few pins in it to make sure that the edges stay together. And then we'll sew down here again with, again, I'm going to say a 1/4 inch seam allowance because I want to give myself a little bit of play when I try and stuff this. And I say try and stuff this because there's no guarantee I can actually do this successfully while I'm being filmed. So that's something to look forward to. Also, if you turn the speed up on your machine, you can get this project done much more quickly. And lock stitch in it at the end. So there you go, you have your tube of fabric. Now I'm just going to move my machine out of the way because I don't need it anymore. And then what you want to do is, the temptation is to turn this the right way round. If you put your hand inside it and grab it and half turn it the right way out, so you've got the other end coming up here, and try and keep that seam that you've just stitched in line. Try not to twist the fabric inside the tube. And then put your arm inside the doubled up tube, like the world's thickest, most uncomfortable wrist warmer, until it can come out the other end. Moment of truth. Grab your woolen sausage, and I want the line here, seam line, to line up with where I've rolled the fabric together, so that the bottom, the flat bottom, lays on the seam. So I'm in danger of knocking everything over with this ridiculous tube of wool. And although this might look a little bit clumsy to you, please believe me when I tell you this is going on so much more easily than the original one did. So get to the halfway point, and then before you go any further, just cut those binds and then hang on to this end and slip Why did I say this was so much easier? Because I'm going to hit a hiccup. Slip this down a bit. And this is like, you know, if you turn out piping and it's really narrow piping, or you're trying to turn piping out over a cord that's a little bit too thick. It's not going to be easy, but anything worthwhile is not easy. And each time you reach a tie, just snip it off. Because what that will allow is for your rolled up towel or, you know, random sheep's wool product, it will allow it to expand to fill the whole of the space of your sausage skin. So you've got a nice, tight, neatly padded draught excluder. And I know you're sitting there wondering about the other side of this. I'm going to come to that in a minute. But this way is easier than trying to put the whole of that into the whole of this. This way is easier. Can you imagine how difficult it is to do it the other way? Right, so there you go. There is one end. And then what I just need to do is ruche up this end far enough so that I can cut those ties. There's one, the other one, oh, it's just in there. And I don't know about a project that will keep you warm this winter. Making it certainly keeps you warm. So I've got slightly more excess on here than I have on there. So I'm just going to grab the outer in one hand and the inner in another and give it a good pull. So I'm about an inch away, maybe 2 inches away on both sides. And then, once you're happy with it and it's on there straight, if you grab yourself a needle and thread and use a double thickness of thread, start from the seam and just lock that stitching in really well, because you don't want it coming undone at the end. And then if you run a running stitch like into the fold of that hem, so it's only going through that one layer of fabric, and we'll run it all the way around. Don't make your running stitches too long, because that will make your gathers a bit raggedy. You want your running stitches to be what, 5-6 millimeters long. Gather it up as you work your way around. All right, I've nearly got back to my starting point. check where the end of my wadding is. I'll pull that out a little bit more so that I've got a nice flat base. So I've gone all the way round with a running stitch. If you gather it up, I'm just going to pop that under my armpit so I don't knock anything over. And when you gather it up, you can see that you've still got quite a big gap. So then what you want to do is you want to start going around again a second time to gather it even further. Pull it tight as you do so it closes up that hole at the bottom. And to be honest with you, it's one of those things, that hole's not going to be seen because it's going to be up against your door jamb maybe. But if you want to neaten that bit at the end, you can always cover it with a button. But once you're happy that that's tight enough, just secure your thread with a couple of oversew stitches and a knot. Oh. And then run the end of the thread back into the work so that you don't see any loose ends. Do the same at the other end, which I'm not going to do at the minute because my hand sewing is laborious and you have better things to watch. But essentially what you will do is you'll have equal ends that look quite neat, don't necessarily need a button on them, and you've got a doorstop that is heavy enough to stay in place. And it's because the way that you've rolled it from the outsides in and not just one roll, it means that the bottom of it is formed quite flat, but the top's got a nice dome to it. So that's a project I've been wanting to do for a while, but I've never quite worked out how I'm going to be able to do it on camera. Wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, but there you go. Very useful project, especially if you're trying to cut down on your utility bills this cold snap. And also it's a great fair seller. If you're doing craft fairs and things like that, and you need something else to bulk up your stall, because you're just making it from scrap fabric and old towels or leftover whatever you've got to fill it with. So, and everybody needs a Draught Excluder these days. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you'll come back and see us again very, very soon. In the meantime, keep safe, keep warm, and thank you very much for watching.
If you've been inspired to create, please share your makes with us in the comments section below. And if you've enjoyed videos by the Crafts channel, hit the like button. Want to see more of us? Then click subscribe. See you next time.